I just want to lead in by something that I said the other day. I was at East Tennessee State University on Wednesday afternoon, and I do a debate forum with the Democrat, Republican, Green Party, and myself. And I told the young Democrat there representing the party that when Obama was campaigning, that he said, when I'm elected, I will remove all the troops from Iraq within 16 months. And everybody clapped and they quit listening. They didn't hear the second part of the sentence that said, we're going to send them all to Afghanistan. So we do need to pay attention a little more. Angela is an activist. She's a former Libertarian National Committee member, former executive director of the Libertarian Party of California, activist with Outright Libertarians. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Angela Keaton.
I've been twittering little bits from the convention today so that Stuart Flood and the others get it directly. They get the news fresh, and this way there's no mediator. I have several, actually, I've got a couple of handouts for you. These were made just for you guys, actually. I'm going to take a radically different tone of where we're heading with these set of speeches. Going between Lee and Ernie was not an enviable. You know, I'm like the sandwich between the nice calming sandwich middle between the radical book bread ends. But of course you can't. It's almost impossible not to comment on the idiocy. So we'll just get it out of the way really quickly. But first, I just want to thank Kelly for inviting me and such a great convention. And this has been a wonderful experience. And I always look forward to speaking at different events, especially to libertarians who I know are pretty solidly anti-war. So I'm going to head in with the. I did a different intro last night because obviously things had changed since the speech had started to develop, and this is a Libertarian Party group, and it is about anti-war. And when I was thinking about Lee's situation, I mean there is an obvious connection. What is antiwar.com? It's consistently a top 20 political site. I mean, in the paid surveys, we absolutely rank consistently, and so does actually LouRockwell.com, strangely. And if you think about it, that means a whole lot of people read those sites every day around the world. So when you think about you think about the Libertarian Party as being small, but the movement has wide and deep support out there. It's just bigger though than what we're thinking. It's the whole world. That's about 100,000 visitors a day, and that's about 100,000 people. About 99.9% of whom don't give a damn whether Lee Riots and I got kicked off of some kid's bus. I want to move on to that because when I look at the Iraq body count estimates, by the end of the year, roughly 100,000 civilians will have died under the U.S. occupation of Iraq. And given the level of death and destruction by the U.S. government, it's really beneath my dignity to even give a moment's thought to Bill Redpath and his little clipboard. And that is such a minor issue in the grand scheme of what is happening and the death and destruction that I cannot, to be concerned about the LNC when every day the United States government is responsible for murder, the proportion isn't there. So people are murdered and you paid for it, and shelling wedding parties and shooting pregnant women, and that should be at the top of the LP agenda. Not light bulbs, not Robert's Rules, not promoting the GOP's agenda of gay hate and race baiting, but the fact that your tax dollars are used to. All right, let's get back into the heart of this here. I know I'm speaking to members of the Libertarian Party, and today, as most of you know, I've been one of you for a very long time. I grew up in a libertarian household. My old man was a typical anarcho-capitalist Rothbardian ran spouting for Lachey. And I've been working with the party since I was a teenager. I was president of my college chapter of Libertarians and kind of worked my way through until I got on Libertarian National Committee. And part of the reason why I'm no longer a member of the Libertarian National Committee was that certain groups have shifted toward neoconservatism and a type of Chamber of Commerce style republicanism as opposed to the basic non-aggression principle and natural rights, which are the source of all individual rights. So that's kind of why when we talk about being anti-war, this is very much an integral part about what it means to be a libertarian when you think about what war is. But I haven't completely given up hope. And the Libertarian Party and state or local forums can be a very, very valuable force for peace, justice, and freedom. And what I'm speaking here to you today about is what I think the most important way for a libertarian or a member of a libertarian party or a human being can be that kind of force for peace, justice, and freedom. It largely ties in with the reason why I grew very uncomfortable and with public activism after the LP chose to nominate Bob Barr for president and Wayne Root, who anointed himself last week as the wing of the anti-war movement of the party, curious, as vice president. Most of my activist time now goes into antiwar.com as well as most of my work day. And it's a website that was founded by two very important figures in the history of the modern libertarian movement, Eric Garris and Justin Raimondo, both of whom were part of Murray Rothbard's original Radical Caucus. I guess you all know who Murray Rothbard is. He was like the greatest philosopher of the 20th century that still most people have not heard of. Every day, this is what we do, every day, it gathers very, very important information. And it does that with a very small staff of most of whom are pretty hardcore libertarians. I don't mean LP members. I mean they're like serious movement philosopher type where they're extremely committed to these ideas. And it's close focus, though. We focus on the one issue. It's an anti-interventionist foreign policy. That's it. That's all we do. That's all we talk about. That's all we cover. And you know, we're nonpartisan. We're entirely a coalition-based. We take people from all over, all ideologies. We have everyone, you know, if you look at our radio show, antiwar.com also has anti-war radio. Everyone literally from Noam Chomsky to Pat Buchanan has been on that show. And they all have something in common. And it's something to think about when we're trying to make change. Because the goal of this, and I'm going to say this a few times, the goal of this isn't to get Libertarian Party members. The goal is a libertarian society. That's what you want, the main goal. And antiwar.com is unique because it really, we have news and we gather news and information from all over the world, all the sources, and a lot of it that doesn't get easily covered here. I'm not saying it's censored here in the U.S. It just isn't part of the typical mainstream news coverage. It doesn't seem to fit, you know, the general narrative. And it's such an important resource. And of course, I do the normal thing since I am the development director. Of course, is that I hope that you support it with time, money, or both. Some people think that out there that think that aiming all of your activist energy into an issue that has many, many supporters and proponents that are not libertarian, which is true about the anti-war issue, is a sign that a cause is not libertarian. And, you know, I'm kind of the person who, you know, I'm as embarrassed as the next person whenever I go to an Answer rally. For those of you not familiar, Answer is Act Now to Stop War and End Racism, which sounds like a great idea in theory. Unfortunately, Answer mixes about 14 different causes, and when you show up to an anti-war event, these young Ron Paul kids see, what's East Timor? Or there's all these signs about gay marriage or socialized medicine, and they have absolutely nothing to do with the basic message of war. So Answer is not the best place to do it because it's really very confusing to libertarians, but it's important to show. And I show up at every one of these rallies, and I made the mistake of actually taking a current member of the LNC who's in the Neo faction to an Answer rally, and he began to literally shake and freak out because of the presence of all these people who were different, including Whores Not Wars, which shows up in LA, and they are literally whores, not wars. It's quite an event, but and these rallies are usually a mess. I mean, it's always, you know, it's socialized medicine, it's returning Southern California to Atzlan, or it's the Screen Actors Guild will show up, and it's always shifting focus away from the wars. But the fact is, you need to show the state that there is active resistance to the war. And you have to demonstrate that. And that's why you do go to things like protests. It's very, very important that the government see actual action, because voting is such an insignificant part of the political experience. It's probably the least effective way to make political change. So that's why it's very, very important that you're making public statements, that you're speaking, and that you're, most importantly, educating yourself about the actual numbers of war. Because I can talk philosophy all day about war, but I want you to think about this. In 2008 alone, 2,118 civilians were killed. 828 of those were through the U.S. government or NATO. And the Afghan army, they were not suicide bombers or Taliban guerrillas. Those were deaths that you paid for through your voluntary contribution to the charity of the Internal Revenue Service. 60,481 civilians were killed in the first 5 years of the Iraq War. 60,481. That was by the end of 2008 and estimates there for the New England Journal of Medicine. That's a lot of